Thank you. Ms. Vashisht, did I pronounce that?
Yes.
Good, yeah, I'm doing
That's
better. Thank
perfectly
you.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission for inviting me to testify here as a witness today. It's worth remembering that this commission is named after the late Congressman Tom Lantos, a Hungarian-born Holocaust survivor. In July 2003, he said, "Indians and Jews share a passionate commitment to respect for others, for the rule of law, and for the mindless, vicious, fanatic Islamic terrorism." I'm also reminded today of American journalist Daniel Pearl, who was kidnapped and beheaded by Pakistani terrorists. His last words, "My father is a Jewish, my mother is a Jewish, I am a Jewish." Honorable members of the Tom Lantos Commission, I speak before you the last words of Daniel Pearl in my own words. My father is a Kashmiri Hindu, my mother is a Kashmiri Hindu, I am a Kashmiri Hindu, and our home and lives in Kashmir were destroyed by radical Islamic terrorism. As I begin to speak, I am choked. As I begin to speak, I'm choked by the thoughts of those voices I represent here because their voices were extinguished in the most brutal fashion. I am a member of the minority Hindu community from Kashmir, victim of the worst ethnic cleansing witnessed in independent India. I speak here today because I am a survivor. An innocent young woman, a lab assistant in a school, wasn't as lucky as I was. She was abducted, blindfolded, gang raped, and cut into two halves on a mechanical saw while still alive. Her name was Girija Tikku. Her only crime, her faith. I am her voice today. I am also the voice of young Kashmiri Hindu engineer who was hunted by terrorists, again for his faith. When terrorists came to kill him, he hid inside a rice container in his attic, and he would have been alive today had his location not been disclosed to the terrorists by his own neighbors. His neighbors he trusted, neighbors that we trusted. The terrorists shot him through the container and forced his wife to eat the blood-soaked rice. His name was B.K. Ganju. His crime, his faith. I speak for him today. I could go on and on. We have seen ISIS level of horror and brutality in Kashmir 30 years before the West was even introduced to the brutalities of radical Islamic terror. I'm glad these hearings are happening today because when my family and I lost our homes, our livelihood, and our way of life, the world remained silent. Where were the advocates of human rights when my rights were taken away? Where were they on the night of 19th January 1990 when there were voices blaring from all mosques in Kashmir that they wanted Kashmir with Hindu women but without Hindu men? Where were the saviors of humanity when my feeble old grandfather stood with 2 kitchen knives and an old rusted axe ready to kill my mother and I in order to save us from the much worse fate that awaited us if we landed in the hands of terrorists on the same fateful night? My people were given 3 choices: flee, convert, or die. Around 400,000 Kashmiri Hindus fled right after that night of horror. They survived. Those who didn't were killed. Today, 30 years later, I'm still not welcome in my home in Kashmir. I am not allowed to follow my faith without fear. My house in Kashmir is illegally occupied as those of countless others in my community. Those that are not occupied have mostly been burned down or are ransacked. Thousands of our temples have been vandalized, desecrated, and lay in ruins. Every effort has been made to eradicate Hinduism from Kashmir. Today, Kashmir is home to only one religion. This is by design and is the ultimate violation of human rights. Diversity and acceptance of different views are not the norm in today's Kashmir. It's not just Hindus that have been ethnically cleansed. Sikhs have been massacred. A fatwa was announced against Christian schools in Kashmir, accusing them of luring Muslims to Christianity. What human rights are we talking about when all minorities have either been driven out or silenced? An Islamist state of Kashmir where other religions are not welcome and tolerance of any other viewpoint is absent is no citadel of human rights. This is the society that is being created by Kashmir by those who are talking about human rights. Terrorism, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate opponent of human rights. Human rights cannot and should not take precedence over human life. Everyone who stands for freedom, liberty, and right to life should worry about radicalization that fuels terror. A 65-year-old shopkeeper, Ghulam Mohammed Mir, gets killed by the terrorists because he opened his shop to earn his livelihood. Truck drivers and apple traders are shot dead by terrorists for simply wanting to earn their livelihood. The simple act of earning livelihood in Kashmir today is prohibited by terrorists because earning a livelihood would show that Kashmir is moving towards normalcy. I ask you, who are these people who fear normalcy in Kashmir? Who are these people who talk about human rights but fear free movement, free thought, and right to earn livelihood? Abrogation of Article 370, that has raised so much concern around the world, is in fact a restoration of human rights. Indian Constitution, which is modeled on the US Constitution, Indian Constitution,
Excuse me, everybody.
Indian Constitution, which is modeled on
I
the,
want to say, just, I mean, we want to give everybody the respect of listening to them, so I would urge that nobody interrupt.
thank you so
Thank
much,
you. All right.
Chairman. I was saying that Indian Constitution, which is modeled on the US Constitution, is the most liberal document in the world. The Constitution was not applicable to J&K in totality as long as Article 370 was in force. After abrogation of Article 370, people of Jammu and Ladakh have been liberated from the tyranny of being half citizens in their own country. Child marriage, which was responsible for child trafficking and sex trafficking, has been made illegal in Kashmir. Kashmiri women and LGBTQ community in Kashmir has been given the same rights as other Indian citizens. As a mother, it's very important to me now that child marriage has been outlawed in Kashmir. Today, I'm delighted that Kashmiris have the same rights as Indian citizens. If something as serious as women's right to own property and granting of LGBTQ rights to choose, amongst many others, has been accomplished through abrogation of Article 370, then it's safe to assume that restoration of internet in few remaining districts of Kashmir is not too far away. I am a proud daughter of Kashmir. I am a proud legatee of India's composite civilization. Terrorism has uprooted me and snatched my home from me. I hope my human rights are restored too someday, and the human rights of my community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Us from speaking about human rights in 2019. So what is your path forward?
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. It breaks my heart that my colleague talks about Sikhs but did not mention Chitti Singhpura massacre. That was the massacre that happened around the time President Clinton visited India. 35 Sikhs, if I were massacred. Why did he not mention that? You know why? Because that would go against his agenda. That is why he did not mention that. I do not think there is any evidence available that Sikhs are looking for self-determination outside of Indian Constitution. I travel to India all the time. I talk to Sikhs all the time. I talk to other minorities in Kashmir. None of them have indicated to me that they are looking for self-determination.
Let me say that is in dispute, and would you give me a path forward, please?
Yes.
Yep.
The path forward is we are dealing with Islamist terror in Kashmir. We have to be cognizant of this fact. Why is it that nobody on this panel except me talked about Islamist terror? Is Islamist terror a figment of my imagination?
Well,
no, it isn't. How many people have been killed by terrorists? Since August 5, not one person has been killed by security forces. All deaths have happened because of the terrorists trained by Pakistan. Why is it that nobody has mentioned this?
We have mentioned,
this
Madam,
doublespeak, Congresswoman, this doublespeak is not helping India when they are combating
but you are
terrorists.
on the record, and you're speaking about it, and we're giving you the forum. So
Thank
it is
you.
in the record.
Thank
and
you.
should
But it's
take-
such a
you should
lopsided
take heart in
panel,
that.
but I'm thankful.
You should take heart of that. Let me do this before my time is yielded. Let me just, can you give me a sentence of a path forward, please?
The sentence of the path forward is we have to assist India in eradicating Islamist terror, radical Islamist terror. That is when the human rights situation will be possible. India has the greatest example of Punjab, where they dealt with Pakistani bread terror and
thank
all.
you, Madam. Mr. McGovern, just you me, just
yes.
one moment. I
Yes.
thank you so very much, Madam. As a member of the Homeland Security Committee, we have been dealing with the idea of, or the issue of terrorists for a very long time. I have come to understand, however, that to label a country with the acts of those who no one agrees with is a dangerous phenomenon. So I think the
But
path
we cannot
forward-
deny that
I
Osama bin
think-
Laden was found in
no,
Pakistan.
I think
Can we
the
deny
path-
that?
I think the path forward should be that all of us are against terrorists, and we stand with you, and we stand with those who want the human rights dignity. I do not deny you, and I cannot deny them.
Hearings on China's enormous influence and footprint all over the world, including in Africa, but also other places in the world. And I'm wondering, you know, they have territorial claims that impact Kashmir, the Ladakh in particular, and I'm wondering what their role is now in this crisis.
About Ladakh, are we talking about Ladakh? Ladakh has welcomed abrogation of Article 370, and they have also welcomed being a new separate union territory. They had been fighting for it for a long time, and after a long time, Ladakh has now been granted union territory status, which in India's term means that it is run by federally run territory. And beyond that, I think I have not seen any other issues about Article 370 at all in Ladakh at all. I mean, they've been actually granted. I think Kashmir absolutely should be an international issue because Kashmir is primarily an issue of terrorism. So all terrorism should be international issue. I agree with that. I think everyone should talk about Kashmir. You, me, everyone, because that is where the fountainhead of terrorism in Asia is. And we need to eradicate that before we can even talk about human rights.
If I could?
Dangerous place in the world. How are we saying that we have not read reports about Kashmir
I-
being dangerous? It's on testimony. You must know. President Clinton has called it the most dangerous place in the world.
If I could ask John Sifton, what do you say about that?
Sorry.
Because, you know, John will know, he's been before.
Stuff.
You wanted me to go? Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here. I don't have a contrary evidence to this, but I think this is the first time a Kashmiri Hindu is speaking on behalf of a Kashmiri Hindu is in the Congress. So, Chairman, I really want to thank you. I cannot tell you how much that means to me and to my community. That means a lot to us, that you're giving us a platform to speak. So thank you very much. I just want to make 2 or 3 quick points. This plebiscite thing comes up all the time, and the original mandate of the plebiscite was that everyone should, you know, sort of back off from where they are. So that means Kashmir is not just with India, it's also divided in Pakistan, and a part of it is also held with China. So good luck to this Congress getting China vacating Kashmir. So if you can do that, I mean, that's not, so plebiscite is off the table. It's not going to happen in ever. So I can, and as I said that, it's not because of India. Good luck, everyone who's booing, good luck getting Pakistan to vacate, POK, I mean, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and good luck getting China to vacate. So having said that, I also want to draw your attention.
But I don't want me to interrupt you. I just want to say we can never give up on standing for the principle that people have a right to their own self-determination. I think you'll even agree with that, so that's done. I mean, you're right.
I also want to add to that,
Yeah.
that India has not occupied Kashmir, and I cannot say this in the thing. Kashmir was never a separate part. Civilizationally, I want anyone to show me one shred of evidence that India has occupied Kashmir. India has not occupied Kashmir. Kashmir is an integral part and always been. India is not just a 70-year-old nation state that you see. India is a 5,000-year-old civilization. There is no Kashmir without India. There is no India without Kashmir. It's both ways. And I will say this at the top of my voice because this is so important to me. Having said that, I also want to draw your attention to thousands of Kashmiri Hindu refugees who are still languishing in the camps. So we want, through this committee, if we can draw attention and, for Indian government to be cognizant of their lives right now. It's been 30 years and their lives haven't been better. And that's another thing. Also, the last point that I want to make, and we must really look beyond agendas, and we must look beyond this manufactured narrative. It's very important. It's very important to go and speak to ordinary Kashmiris. What will they tell you? They will tell you, we want to live. We want to live. They will not, no, within Indian Constitution. I will just end this. If this House is going to allow separatist slogans here, I think I'll have to walk out because I cannot allow that. So, India, this is not being very respectful, Congressman. But
I'm sorry,
anyway.
I'm trying to bang my pen here.
Yes.
I mean, everybody deserves to be heard here, so that's
Yes.
all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I just want to make one last point. India's democratic credentials are unmatched. They have successfully, in a democratic setup, defeated insurgencies in Punjab and Northeast. It's time to strengthen India against this insurgency in Kashmir, and the human rights problem will be solved forever. Yeah. Thank you.